Growing up in my family was like living in the shadow of a perpetual golden child, my sister Tara. She's 24, 2 years older than me, and ever since I can remember, she's been treated like the center of the universe by our parents. If you've got siblings, you know the deal, there's always a favorite, and in our house it was Tara. Tara was the firstborn, and my parents seemed to think that made her practically royalty. Everything she did was praised, while I, the younger brother, was expected to manage on my own. It wasn't outright neglect, but it was obvious. Tara was the princess, and I was just there. Things took a turn a couple of years ago when Tara was supposed to graduate from college. It should have been a proud moment for all of us, but instead, she dropped out in her senior year to chase her dream of being a musician. Now, I'm all for following your dreams, but Tara wasn't exactly destined for stardom. She joined a local band in her second year, had a few gigs, and suddenly she believed she was on her way to becoming the next big thing. Predictably, my parents supported her decision wholeheartedly. "You have to follow your passion," they said, completely overlooking how unrealistic her plans were. Tara's voice? It was decent, sure, but hardly ready for the big leagues. Still, they cheered her on as she left college behind to join the band full-time. It didn't take long for reality to catch up. Within a few months, the band replaced her with someone who not only sang better, but could also write their own lyrics. Tara was crushed. She moved back home, and instead of encouraging her to go back to school or find a job, my parents let her lounge around the house doing absolutely nothing. It baffled me. Meanwhile, I was working part-time, studying full-time, and hustling to make ends meet because my parents made it clear that once I graduated high school, I was on my own. What stung the most was that while Tara got coddled and financially supported without question, I had to juggle work and school just to get by. The favoritism was obvious, and it hurt. Fast forward to last week. I was preparing for one of the most important days of my life, my college graduation. It had taken 4 long, grueling years of balancing studies and part-time jobs to get there, and I was proud to be the first in our family to graduate from college. Tara's dropout didn't count. I called my parents to invite them, expecting at least a little excitement. I didn't need a parade, but I thought they'd be proud enough to make the 2-hour drive to my school. When I asked if they'd come, my mom hesitated. She mentioned being busy with work, which I immediately knew was an excuse. My heart sank as I pushed a little further, only to find out the real reason. They'd planned a party for Tara on the same day. A party to cheer her up because she'd been feeling down since she dropped out. I was stunned. They were throwing a pity party for my sister, who made a conscious decision to leave school instead of coming to my graduation. I didn't know what to say. When I managed to find my voice, I asked, "So you're skipping my graduation to throw a party for Tara?" The same Tara who didn't even finish school. My mom brushed it off, saying I was being too sensitive and that Tara needed their support more right now. That was it. Years of pent-up frustration spilled out, and I told her exactly how I felt. That they'd always prioritized Tara, always let her get away with anything while expecting me to fend for myself. And now, even on one of the biggest days of my life, they were doing it again. After a moment of silence, my mom said something that made me snap. "It's just a graduation. You'll be fine without us." I hung up. I was done. I didn't need their validation anymore. But I wasn't going to take it lying down either. I called my grandparents, who've always been supportive and who co-signed my student loans when my parents refused. They knew how my parents treated Tara and me differently, but had never confronted them about it directly. When I told them what happened, I couldn't hold back my tears. My grandparents were livid. My grandpa, who's usually calm and composed, apologized repeatedly, even though none of it was his fault. He assured me they'd be there for my graduation and said something that surprised me. They were done enabling Tara. Later that night, I got a call from my dad, who was furious. Before I could even say hello, he was shouting, accusing me of being selfish and causing unnecessary drama. I was confused until he explained. My grandparents had gone over to their house and confronted them, calling them out for constantly supporting Tara at my expense. They told my parents they would no longer send money for Tara's expenses and that from now on, they'd be sending it to me to help me get started after graduation. My dad yelled that I needed to fix things with my grandparents because they were losing their financial support and that I was selfish for accepting the money when Tara needed it more. I hung up and called my grandparents to confirm what my dad said. Grandpa told me they were serious. They were tired of seeing me get the short end of the stick and wanted to help me get a good start in life. At first, I felt conflicted about accepting their help. I didn't want to rely on anyone financially, but my grandparents insisted. They said it was their way of making up for all the unfairness I'd faced. So I accepted. I'd worked hard and I deserved some support. Since then, my parents and Tara have bombarded me with calls and texts, trying to guilt-trip me into giving up the money. Tara even sent a long message about how she was emotionally fragile and needed the support to work on herself before she could get a job. I didn't reply. I blocked them all. A few days later, my graduation arrived and my grandparents were there, cheering me on like the proud family I needed. Afterward, my parents showed up uninvited, lingering outside the venue. My grandparents suggested we meet them for lunch, so I agreed, curious to hear what they had to say. At lunch, my parents apologized, saying they didn't realize how much their favoritism had affected me. My dad even claimed he hadn't known they were being unfair, which I found hard to believe. It was clear they were more concerned about their relationship with my grandparents and their lost financial support than about me. I told them I wasn't ready to forgive them and that if they really cared, they'd respect my need for space. My mom started crying, a typical move when things didn't go her way, and my dad tried guilt-tripping me again, saying I owed them forgiveness. But I didn't budge. My grandparents were proud of me for standing my ground, and for the first time, I felt free from their manipulation. Tara, of course, didn't take this quietly. She started posting online about how I was an ungrateful brat, tearing the family apart by accepting money from our grandparents. I ignored it until she dragged my grandparents into it, claiming they were enabling me and punishing her. That's when I posted my side of the story, explaining the years of favoritism and how my grandparents stepped in to support me when no one else would. It didn't take long for people to side with me, especially after one of Tara's old bandmates commented, revealing that Tara was never supposed to be a permanent member of the band and had been told multiple times that they were looking for a better vocalist. Tara deleted her posts after that and went silent. Now, weeks later, I've moved into my own place, started my new job, and kept Tara and my parents blocked. My grandparents continue to be a rock of support. I feel lighter, like a weight has been lifted, and for the first time, I'm focusing on my own happiness. Maybe one day things with my parents and Tara will change, but for now, I'm done with their drama. Family isn't just blood. It's about who truly cares for you, and I'm lucky to have that in my grandparents. Thanks for reading, and remember, standing up for yourself is worth it. Sometimes you have to choose peace over people, even if they're family.